What are you buying? Stranger, stranger. Now that's a weapon.
The Chicago Typewriter is the gun that made the 20s roar and makes its appearance in Resident Evil 4, claiming the spot of many people's favorite gun. It is modeled after the real-life M1A1 Thompson in the 1921 variant and goes by many nicknames, the Chicago Typewriter being one of them. It earns its nickname from the notorious Prohibition-era gangsters in Chicago. This weapon is unlocked after completing separate ways and purchasing it for 1 million pesetas. It is also unlockable in separate ways after completing Assignment Ada, costing 300,000 pesetas. There is no upgrading this weapon, and the stats are as follows: firepower 10, firing speed of 0.10 seconds, and infinite ammo. 10 firepower and 0.10 firing speed essentially makes the DPS for the Chicago Typewriter at 100, meaning it will take down all hordes with ease, and it will take out bosses extremely quickly. And that's why we're here, to see it level out each boss in the game. All gameplay is on professional. Against the common enemies in the game, the Chicago Typewriter eliminates them in a shot or two. It chews through shields and armor pretty well with its high DPS. The Chicago Typewriter makes running through the majority of this game trivial since it kills pretty much everything in sight with very little effort. Now on to the bosses. We start with El Gigante. The first encounter takes literally seconds to take him down. The ones you find later in the game have just a bit more health, but it's still not much of an issue with this weapon. Now on to the first major boss, we got Chief Mendez. So this weapon is pretty easy up against him. You just shoot him a few times in both phases and he goes down rather quickly. Now on to Verdugo. Same rules apply, you just really unload and avoid his attacks. It does take a little bit longer than maybe the hand cannon or something like that, but rinse and repeat and he goes down quickly.
Monsters. Guess after this there'll be one less to worry about.
Now for Salazar, you want to make sure you hit the eye on his snake, and then he will open up his cage, and you basically just unload on him for a couple seconds, and he's done. U3 stalks you for a little bit in this cage section, and each time he pops up you really just have to put a few bullets in him and he goes away for a little bit. And on his main fight you really don't even have to move anywhere. You can just stay where you're at and just take shots at him until he goes down. Keep in mind he does have 2 phases, so it does take a little bit longer than some of the other bosses.
Means you're on a tight leash. Sounds like you thought this one out pretty well.
Krauser, similar to U3, stalks you for the majority of the boss fight leading up to the actual boss fight. And for Krauser, this part's a little bit more tricky on professional, where he can clip you pretty easily with his TMP or his knife attacks or even hand grenades. So with the Chicago Typewriter, what you want to do is just take aim at him and stun him. It will take a few shots and he'll throw a flashbang, and then that will signal you to the next section. You might have to do this a few times until you reach him finally, but it's simple enough. Now when you finally do get up to the actual boss fight, it will take a little bit more rinse and repeating than it did with the hand cannon, As long as you keep your distance and hit your QTEs, you shouldn't have any issue here. On to the main baddie of the game, Sadler. So, he's a little tricky just because he really is weak to explosives. So when you use any weapon that's not explosive, it will take a little bit more time to kill him. Now of course Ada throws you the special launcher, but you want to just go ahead and ignore that. Shoot the eyeballs on his legs, shoot his main eyeball, which are all of his weak points. And then really with the Chicago Typewriter, you can just keep unloading on him until he finally goes down. It may take you a minute or so.
Use this.
The Chicago Typewriter is hands down one of the coolest weapons in Resident Evil based on a historical firearm. As we've shown in this video, it takes seconds to take out most enemies and bosses. However, that strength is also its weakness in my opinion, as it makes the game incredibly easy and downright boring in some ways. I'd wish for a version of this weapon that was perhaps tuned down a bit so you can enjoy the weapon for what it is, but also enjoy the challenge of the game. That is going to wrap up the boss run for the Chicago Typewriter. Stay tuned and subscribe for more Resident Evil content and Resident Evil 4 remake content down the road. I have several weapon showcases for Resident Evil 4 and 5, so be sure to check those out. Until next time.
So, after you take me back to my place, how about we do some, overtime?
Sorry.
Somehow I knew you'd say that, but it doesn't hurt to ask, you know? So, who was that woman anyway?
Why do you ask?
Come on, tell me.
She's like a part of me I can't let go. Let's leave it at that.